Hello and welcome to Sonspiration. If you're watching for the first time, Sonspiration is inspiration from the Holy Bible. I am a speaker and a Christian, so every Sunday I go into the Holy Bible and I find a powerful inspirational story to fire you up for the week. In this month of February, we have been looking at a topic which is actually a question, which is, are you on track? In January, we focused about creation and about setting goals and planning for the year ahead, about speaking powerfully into your year. And while you've done all that, February is a great time to check and make sure that you're actually on track. You don't want to get to October or November or even December and realize that you have been running down in the wrong direction, or you got your ladder against the wrong wall, or maybe you made a slight change and you have been heading in the wrong direction. And I want to focus on three major questions, and also want to pick out somebody from the Bible who really thought he was on track until God had to call him back into place. And I'm sure there will be a lesson that we can all learn from that. The story I'm looking at today is a very common one, because this is a great man that wrote most of the New Testament, and his name is Paul. Paul first came to light as Saul, and he was one that looked after people's clothes when they were stoning Stephen, which is one of the apostles. When he went preaching, he got arrested and the people stoned him to death, and Saul was the one that looked after their clothes. That's the first description of him in the Bible. Saul was a scholar, and he was a very intelligent man. He was setting out there and persecuting Christians because he thought that he was doing the right thing. One day, he went to the king and collected permission to travel to go and kill more Christians. And while he was on the way, he saw a flashing light, and that knocked him off his donkey. And God said to him, "Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And he was like, "Who are you, Lord?" And he said, "I am Jesus Christ." You might be thinking, we as human beings, we have free will. So why did God have to call Saul? I find his story very different, because it's all down to the fact that Saul had set out because he believed strongly that he was on track and he was actually doing the right thing. So we're looking today at what lessons we can draw from this, and that could actually help us reflect on ourselves too and see if we're actually traveling in the right direction. Over time, one thing I've learned in life is everybody says the journey will be tough, which I totally agree with you. But once you are heading in the right direction, no matter how tough the journey is, it turns out to be a lot easier. It's like somebody trying to drive a car with square wheels on it, and everyone is calling his attention, saying to him, "Hang on here, we can change that to round wheels and you can have a lot smoother and easier ride." And that's why I want to call your attention today in the month of February, because it's good you have that good check. As long as you're on track, using these three things I'm going to mention, I can guarantee you, even though the ride could be pretty tough, you will be ready for it and you could push through it a lot easier. The first one is reflecting on how far you have come. It's about looking at your experiences and using them positively. When I'm looking at my study Bible, one of the reasons why God called Saul, and which his name was now changed to Paul, was because he was a very educated man. He had studied Judaism and he knew it very well. He was very intelligent. But because he was intelligent, he thought that he had all the information he needed and was confident that he was actually doing the right thing. But maybe if he had stopped and reflected really and realized that the times have changed, because Jesus had come into the world and had died and had risen and had gone back to heaven. So what he was practicing was no more valid now, that things had moved on. But he didn't realize that because he never reflected on it. He just thought, I know what I'm doing, and he just carried on. Sometimes our experiences could work against us instead of working for us. I know we have always been told that experience is the best teacher. Possibly yes, but it depends on how you use those experiences. Because sometimes we've had bad experiences, maybe disappointments, or people have failed us, that could hold us back from actually moving on in our lives. But when we look at these experiences by reflecting, not just looking at experiences, but when you reflect, it means to stop, to think deeply, and to get true understanding of what really happened and where you're heading to. You realize that you can use those experiences for a positive future. So he was called because he was a man that had experiences. He knew what he was doing, but he just thought he was on the right track. But God called him, changed his name to Paul, and he was put on the right track. Secondly, it's about looking at your goals and your visions and making sure they are still valid in this ever-changing world. I just mentioned how intelligent Paul was, or Paul is. But one thing you got to realize was he was confident that nothing had changed. And that's why he was traveling up and down the whole place, because he felt he was doing the work for God, not realizing that he was actually persecuting God. Times had moved on. Jesus had come to the world. Jesus had died and risen. So the Judaism that he was trying to promote was no more valid. But he felt that it was still valid. The world is changing so fast. And one thing that is constant in this life is change. So when you take off on this flight to your destination of your goals and your dreams, you have to constantly check the compass and make sure that you are on track. You need to make sure the world has not moved away and left you behind. And you have to not to keep fighting and pushing. I remember talking to someone the other day and I said to him, technology has basically taken over everything you do in the world. And he said to me, no way, I'm never going to conform to it. But I didn't want to get in an argument because I know it's only the matter of time. There are so many things that you can't even do now if you don't use either machines or computers. And so whether we like it or not, the world is moving on. Make sure your goals are moving alongside and changing quickly. You're making adjustments with the changing world. And then thirdly is the why. What really drives us is our why. If you say to Paul, why are you doing what you're doing? You realize he might say to you, because I love my religion. I love my God. So I'm trying to make sure that people are not going against my God. That was his why, which is very strong. But unfortunately, it was heading in the wrong direction. He had a strong reason. And that's why when you set goals and plans for the year, constantly return to your why and say, why am I doing this? And I always love to say, which is something that Bishop TJ said, if your vision is all about yourself, it is no point. It is useless. You're going to just crash and burn because it's too small when it's about yourself. But when it's bigger than you, it gets you excited. And because it's got to do with other people, it's about the change and the impact that you're trying to make on earth. And so daily check, are these goals about me? Or is it about me making an impact on this world to touch lives, transform lives, and to make people live a better life on this earth? Constantly check that. Constantly ask yourself, why am I actually doing this? You really have to ask those questions all the time. I just want to encourage you to just stop and reflect. Make sure you are on the right path. Don't let your experiences hold you down. Don't let the fact that because you're intelligent and you know what you're doing, you hold yourself back from learning new things or paying attention to the changes that are happening. Don't be left behind because you feel you know it all. When the world is changing very, very fast and then things are moving along, you got to make sure you're still aligned with the changes. And finally, check your why. Make sure it's still valid every single day. So even if you make a change, make sure the why stays strong and holds you so you can keep moving on. Have a great week. Stay blessed. I love you all.